Very important point. So if I want to do a test, this is where the question comes from. I want to do a test. Okay? Sorry, I want to do a test. What is the process? In SilkTest, what is the process? Let me open the test file also. When I want to do a test, first record, then do get, after that do if then else conditions. For example, if the button must be enabled or it must be disabled, I can always write an if then else conditions. Okay, if f equal to true, right, then print the button is enabled. This is a failure. Suppose my expected result is I don't want the button to be enabled. This add button must be disabled. In case the button is enabled, then print me that it's a failure. Right? What I'm doing is I go here, I click. From the screen I am getting that value into a variable. That is the actual result. I am comparing that with my expected result. If they are same, then based on that I am taking a decision. The same thing holds good for this field also. For example, the list box must contain, for example, this list box. If I go and then check the content of the list box or the count in this list box, there should be 3 items in this list box. How do I do that? First of all, is the get commands clear to you all? It's a very simple thing. Object dot get something. What do you want to get? What do you want to check that you have to get? If you want to check the text, then you have to get the text. If you want to get the count, if you want to check the count, get the count. For example, my aim in this test case, in this list box, right? In this list box, there should be 3 items. The moment I double click, I go to the names tab and then do it. This list box must contain 3 values. If I want to check that, I have to get that list box count. Any property you want to check, get that, write if then else conditions. Is this get property clear to you? Can you please raise the hands? It is slightly difficult. It's not that easy. You have to pay some attention. You have to do some practice. But simple concept is window.object.get. Get of what? Get the rectangle, get the text, get the count. It is after that. But first is get something from the screen. So how do I do getting the count from a list box? Now I have to go again. Always you have to go back to the frames.inc file. There is something called combo box display, right? In the combo box display, I want to get the count. If the count is more than, if it is equal to 3, it's a pass, else it's a fail. Now I do the same trick, very simple trick. I go back to this sample 4. I am putting one more condition. Okay. Properties, the dialog box. Another test. Properties, the dialog box dot display, right? This display combo box dot, what is the count? Is there something called a count? Let us check. Get children, get index, get item count, right? There is already something defined. Get item count. Get item count returns what? It returns an integer. Okay. H equal to get item count. Now I'm able to get the count. Now I have to write an if then else condition. If H equal to 3, then I'll say if not equal to 3, right? If not equal to 3, print display list box has more than 3 items, hence test fails. So I have put another if condition. Right now, to make it failure, let me simply say, if it is not equal to 2, display an error message. Let us try. If you see this, it is almost like what you do in manual testing. Go to this window, click. Go to this place, click. Go to this place, click. See, observe, get that particular property, compare actual and expected. Go to another control, get that property, compare actual and expected. Wherever expected and actual is not matching, print a error message, come out. This is exactly the same way these testing tools work. Now let me run it. Run this particular test case. I'm trying to run this test case too. Now watch. The list box will contain 3 items, but I'm comparing against 2, so it will display a failure. Okay, just watch. Now, if you see here, display list box has more than 3 items, hence test fails. But the problem here is my printing message says failure, but this says passed. This is confusing. To avoid this, it's a very, very simple thing. Okay? The very, very simple thing what I need to do is, instead of print, use LogError. Don't use print. Here also, instead of print, use LogError. I think this we have seen in the first class. If you say LogError, it will print it in red. Now let us run this once again. It executes this test, goes to that, checks the list box, then it comes out. Now look here, the result is showing with error. If you see here, display list box has more than 3 items, hence test fails, and it shows error. This is a typical trick in test automation. The trick here is very simple. Get the properties. If you are able to get the properties and then do an if then else conditions, you are done. This is one of the most important features of every testing tool. Even if you have used, I would say QTP, in QTP also get property, right? Everywhere, whether it is rational, from the screen you want to get something, there is a get property command. There are already built-in commands, you don't have to worry. If you are able to tap those commands, all over the place the syntax is very, very similar. Window.object.property, window.object.get command. This is the trick. The next advanced level is, okay, you are getting and then writing an if then else conditions, right? I don't want to write all these if then else conditions. Instead, I would like to minimize this if condition itself. I don't want to write this. I want to give straight away here. Why should I waste one more variable? Right here I want to do something, verify, okay? I want to verify something, right? If you want to verify, put a dot. You could say lot of verify commands, okay? Verify contents, verify properties, verify value, verify text, etc., etc., okay? Verify enabled, is it enabled, right? So if you want to check this part, if you want to check this particular part of, instead of writing if then else condition and then checking the verify property, I can always say add dot verify enabled. If I say verify enabled, right? Then I can always say within this, I can say verify enabled whether it is equal to true, whether it is actually enabled or not. Then this one single command itself will check if it is enabled, then then it will become pass. If it is disabled, it will become fail. So this way, instead of getting the enabled properties and then doing a if then else condition, you can always do verify commands. This is okay. In many times, most of the people will use verify commands. It's up to you whether you want to do get in a variable and then do a verify, or straight away you want to verify. Now if I run it out, just watch. Okay, sorry. I again hit the run button. It will run both the test cases. Now it is coming out with one error. It is saying verify enabled failed. Right? It says verify enabled failed. That means it is trying to check that and it is not enabled. I am saying in my test script, I say I gave the expected value as true. It is enabled. But in the screen, if you see here, in the screen it is disabled. I am saying check whether it is enabled, but in the screen it is disabled. So it is a failure, it comes out. This is one other way of testing. Either you can do get commands and then do if then else condition, or you can always say verify commands. Either way is fine. But most of the times, in what place I will use verify commands, in what place I will use get commands, it is your choice. It's up to you to decide whether you want to use verify command or get commands and if then else condition. Is this clear? This topic, get commands and verify, it's a little bit tricky. You have to have some amount of writing the code in the editor. Without a little bit of coding practice, you cannot do just like that, because this be enabled, this returns something, so I have to declare a variable, right? And that variable, this is returning a Boolean variable, so I should give a Boolean variable on the left hand side. This is returning a rectangle variable, so I have to declare a rectangle variable type. So this requires a little bit of coding effect. But apart from that, it is a very simple concept. How do you like this? So if I take my test script, how will it look like? Record test steps, then get the properties of objects in screen that are to be checked, then write if conditions with expected values. That's all. Every test case will have test steps, get the properties, check in if then else conditions whether they are matching the expectation. If you don't want to do get and then if conditions, you can always write use verify commands. Either way it is fine. So test steps must be recorded, then get the properties, then if conditions. This is how every test will look like. For example, I go here in this screen, I delete this, I click yes. Now it is 3 items, right? Now this is sorted in this case. The content of this must be Joe, Ramu and Viru. If I sort it the other way, it should be Viru, Ramu and Joe. So how will I test it? First I will go get the contents from this list box. This is a list box again, so this is a list of values. Get the contents and then you can see whether it is sorted or not. Then click on this place, see whether the content is reversing. So the trick is get. After that you write coding in if then else conditions. This is the universal way in most of the tools. But only thing over here is, unlike UTP in the other places, you don't have a great UI. You don't have a amazing UI like a spreadsheet or whatever that shows in different colors, in different columns. It's all pure text. The script as well as the frames.inc file, both are pure text. There is no UI, graphical user interface. So you have to deal with typing. I think that's okay. For the kind of power it is giving you in testing, it is the first week that you may have some syntax errors. After that, it is very easy for you to practice and then go ahead. Is this clear? Great. Someone has asked, do we have a separate property list for browser-based object properties? For example, if you go to this help file, okay, now I have given AnyWin class, okay. This AnyWin class has got this information. Now, there is another thing called general web applications, okay. For example, let me show both. For example, there is a list box, okay. For list box, you have got all these properties. Get selected text, is multi-selected, right? Get the selected index, verify value, verify content, select the list, select the range, select etc. etc. Item count, ls value, l value, etc. These are all the properties for a normal list box. Now I go to the web. There is a HTML list box. Okay, look here. HTML list box is derived from list box class. HTML list box inherits all the methods from a list box class. That means whatever properties and methods that you have got for a normal list box, they hold good for HTML also. For example, for HTML checkbox, if you go here, HTML checkbox is derived from checkbox classes. So anything that is normal checkbox, it is used over here. HTML push button is derived from push button class. So anything you have got in the base push button class, right, it's all available in web also. So whatever properties and methods available for a normal control, they are all available for HTML. Apart from that, for example, in HTML, for example, the HTML list, right, some additional properties are given over here. Apart from the regular properties, in addition to the methods of the regular Windows class, additional properties are also given. Any questions? Just to give a cover up and the recapture of what we have seen in SilkTest so far is, you can record, you can replay, then you can do Windows declaration in frame.inc file. Then we can change the Windows declaration with wildcard characters. I can record multiple test cases in the same file. I can run any test case individually. We can do debugging line by line, and we can pass parameters to the test case. The TSL script is a full-fledged programming language that we have seen. Then we have also seen sending multiple data to the same test via data-driven test. Then we have used get properties, and then we have done verify properties. Both are possible. So this is, again, this is only the tip of the iceberg. So unless you practice again and again, getting the confidence in self, it will take some time. So you need to go through that part. Any questions? Today is the last class for SilkTest. Any questions for today? Someone has asked what are the 8 concepts of automation. Okay. Number 1, record. Okay. Number 2, replay. Number 3, GUI mapping. This is like our frame.inc. Okay. Then scripting. This is pure programming using for test. 5, file and DB handling. This is typically, I have not included in this webinar. You can deal with files also. File open, file close, etc. Then the sixth one is data driven test. This we have seen. Then verification. This is like get and verify commands. Then the eighth concept is exception handling. This we have seen as do except, right? Do except. So we have seen all these things except the files and database handling, which is a pure programming exercise, so I didn't include in this one. Someone has asked, do we have the frameworks in SilkTest? Whether it is a SilkTest or QTP or any other tool, a framework is like an architecture. Framework, this means a way to do reusability, maintainability, and traceability. Okay, a technique or an architecture to reuse your script. That is what is called a framework. So the frameworks, data-driven frameworks, keyword-driven framework, all are possible in any tool. Only thing is, unless someone designs that upfront, after that the coding has to start in coding, right? Okay, someone has asked, can you do something on the browser? Okay, let us try to, I have a browser over here. Okay, let me open browser. Let me just open from here, launch that browser. Somehow it's